My name is Chris.
And I'm Jolene.
And we're a family of 5 from Texas that sold everything and moved aboard a 47-foot trawler to live on a boat.
Yep.
We've been on the boat for 6 months now, and we've done some traveling in it, and we're currently in the Florida Keys. Today, we want to talk about how much it actually costs to live on a boat.
So here's the story of the Wandering Naps. We are a family of 5 from Texas. Chris and Jolene met in 2nd grade and began dating our freshman year of high school. We got married in college, moved to Texas, had 3 boys, fell in love with the water, sold everything to travel the Caribbean. Join us on our adventure.
So for starters, we can't tell you exactly what everything costs because all these boats are different. Sailboat versus motor yacht, whether you're going to anchor, whether you're going to live in a marina, whether you're going to travel a lot, whether you're driving 8 knots or 40 knots.
Right.
All make a big difference. So our goal today is we're going to share with you what our expenses are and areas that if you're thinking about living this lifestyle, what you need to look at and remember to include in your own calculations. So for starters, we're going to start with our fixed costs, which once you set those up, depending on what boat you buy, should probably stay the same throughout the life of the boat.
Yeah, just like in a home, you can't answer to someone how much does it cost to live in a house because every house is different. But in a home, you have your fixed expenses of a mortgage, homeowners insurance, property taxes, maintenance, internet, phone, TV. We're going to talk about those same fixed expenses on the boat side.
So in a boat, it's a little different. Instead of having a mortgage, you might have a boat loan, or you might not. Again, that's something you may determine to when you purchase the boat. The next thing is insurance. If you own your boat outright, you're technically not required to have insurance. It's not like an automobile where they require insurance. Some marinas will require insurance if you want to stay there, but if you own your boat, there's no national or state regulation that I know of, especially in Florida, that says you have to have insurance. If you get a loan on a boat, they're going to probably want you to have it.
And boaters insurance is a whole different animal. It's a different game. It's different from auto insurance and homeowners insurance. And there's so many things that affect it. Your location, your experience, the age of the boat.
Yep.
And we had trouble with insurance when we got it. We know some people that pay twice as much as we do for the same size boat. So there's all things to consider with insurance. You're going to pay for a liveaboard boat. You can budget an estimate between
I don't know that you could give someone an estimate because it all depends on the age of the boat, their experience.
True.
For our boat, we have a 1987. It's 47 foot long. We were getting quotes in the range of, on the low end, people at first were quoting like $3,000.
$3,000 minimum.
And then we had people quote us $10,000 for the year. Now that's for a vessel that has a value of about $100,000. And we have $300,000 in liability, and then we have $50,000 in coverage for personal items. So, again, I wish I could tell somebody it's $2,500 or $4,500.
Right.
Our same boat with our same coverage up in North Florida, as opposed to down here in the Keys, is about half. So,
it's all location.
yeah, and then as we travel through the Bahamas and through the Caribbean, we have to get new policies or new riders or adjust the coverage every country that we go to.
So you'll be in much more communication with your boat insurance broker or agent or whoever you go with than you are your homeowners. You just renew every year.
Yep.
On a boat, it's not an automatic renewal every year either. Every year it's a re-up for application.
The other thing is, especially with the age of our boat, if we change insurance carriers or get new coverage, a lot of times they're going to require us to get what's called a survey, which is just like a home inspection but for the boat. That's another $800, $400, $600 expense.
And that's not if you have to pull it out. If you want a dry dock survey.
Yeah, if they want it pulled out of the water and inspected on the hard, that's another, what was it, $500-$600 for us just to pull it out of the water and put it back in the water. So we may spend $1,500 just to have someone inspect the boat to tell us.
Opportunity to get insurance.
Exactly. What's nice is once you have a survey, it's usually good for a year or two, and then they'll accept it. Just stuff we never knew until we started doing the boat thing. So you may or may not have a boat loan, and we talked about insurance. Your next expense
is you're either going to live on the hook on an anchor, or you're going to live in a marina. Or if you're blessed enough to know someone who has a dock behind their house, let us know their name and number, and we'll call them, and we'll live there. Living on an acre. We'll talk about later.
Marina.
We'll start with the marina.
So marinas charge, by and large, by foot. Where we're at is $24 a foot per month. So you can do the math, and then you have to charge they charge a tax on top of that, which I think is about 7% here.
In Florida, yeah.
And then we have metered water, which is a penny per gallon. So every gallon we use, it charges a penny. And then we have metered electricity, and they just charge us whatever the electricity charges them. Some marinas, it's all included. They'll say it's X amount per foot, includes water and electricity.
So the larger boat you have,
Yep.
the more it's going to cost you to stay in the marina.
The other thing is you get breaks. Usually there's the daily rate, for example, in our marina is $3.70 per foot per night. So for us, that's $175 a night. And then the next break is, okay, once you stay a week, usually at that point they're like, why don't you just pay for a month? And they'll get you a monthly fee, assuming they have one available. Our marina is full right now. They have 2 slips available, but they only use those for what they call transient, which is people that are coming and going and paying the nightly rate.
Yeah.
Then a lot of times they'll be at 90 days, so at 3 months they'll sometimes cut you a break, at 6 months, and then a year. So if you're going to sign a long-term yearly contract, you'll get a better rate. We found in our marina, monthly is about as good as you're going to get. It doesn't matter whether we stayed 6 months or a year. You just have to call around to shop that out, just like you would shop around your insurance.
And we did call around before we found this marina. We did call around. So some things to think about is you have to ask if they allow liveaboards if you're going to live on the boat.
Not everybody does.
And then you also have to ask what their fees are, because what we found here, $24 a foot. The more south you go, the more expensive it gets. Our same boat down in Key West is about $4,000 a month.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Versus we're paying about $1,200 a month. So there's a huge difference in your location, and that's staying at a marina.
Yeah. The other things you look at for marinas is you got to think about your amenities. We're blessed. We have kids, and we have a beautiful park up here, and access to a swimming pool, and free parking.
And a beach.
And
tennis courts, and basketball courts.
But that's all things you got to ask. Some places will charge you to park your car per month, or they limit you to 1 car. The other thing you got to think about is the actual dimensions of your boat. So one thing for us, we have a 4-foot 2-inch draft, and this marina at low tide is 5 feet. So anything above 5 feet in this marina won't work. We're 47 foot long, and then we're 14 and a half feet wide. For us, for this marina, that works well. There are boats that are longer. What's tough in our marina is catamarans. We have friends that have a couple of catamarans here in the marina, and they are 26 or 28 feet wide, something like that. And they have very limited space. There's about 6 or 8 spots that they can put those in this marina. There's 2-hole docks they won't fit on. So if you're thinking about doing a catamaran, which is a very popular thing right now,
a marina's gonna be
sometimes some of them will just charge you a double slip fee because you're taking up 2 spots. Others don't. They have an over wide fee. Some it's just sorry. Okay, so let's talk about if you live on the hook.
Yes. Right? So you're not going to have your marina fees, but you still have to get electricity and water.
Yep. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can now let's back up a second. I say live on the hook. That's where you're actually anchoring into the ground, and that is free. There's also an option on a mooring ball, where down here in the Keys there are places they're called mooring fields, and they charge you anywhere from $200 to like $400 a month. And basically they have an anchor already anchored permanently in the ground. Usually it's on a big cement block or tied into the rock on the bottom of the seafloor with a rope and a floating buoy, and you just tie up to that buoy.
That's in mooring fields.
Yeah.
Some places that are like destination spots are first come first serve.
Yeah.
Mooring balls.
But usually those you can't stay overnight more than a few nights. Sometimes they have a fee, sometimes they don't. A lot of state parks will have those, or local attractions where the reef is. You'll see a lot of dive boats, commercial boats tied up to those. But whether you're living on the hook or on the actual anchor or in a mooring field, you still have the same considerations you have to figure out. First one being, how do I get my water? 2 options. You either make it with your own water maker, or you you take your boat into the dock and you fill it with water. Our marina charges a penny per gallon for people who live here. Other places charge more or less, and then you have to think about water quality. Is it going to be okay water? Our marina is very nice water, which we're blessed with. We have heard horror stories of people that fill up at other marinas in different parts of the country or in other countries.
You always want to test it before you just put that hose into your water tank.
Don't just assume. A lot of people have filtration systems so that they attach them to the hose before they even fill their own water tank, and then they have filtration again on board. So you've got water to think about. If you're making water, usually when you're tied up at anchor in a what do you call it, like a bay,
mooring field.
a lot of times that's not water that you want to make water with. I mean, you can, yeah, but it's just going to eat through your filter so quickly. So usually they recommend if you're going to use your water maker, you do it out in the blue, which is offshore several miles, where you're not getting the silt of the currents and stuff coming in, all the pollutions and stuff like that. So 2 options for making water. The other one is, what are you going to do with your waste? Regulations in Florida say you have to be 3 miles offshore before you can pump out. You just pump overboard. So you have to either go into the marina and have them pump you out. Again, some places charge a nominal $5, $10, $15 fee. Some places in Florida here do it for free. And then you also have the option, what's the city boat?
There's a city boat. It's a county boat from Monroe County down here in the Florida Keys. They actually will pump you out at your boat, living on anchor, anywhere for free. You just need to call them, and they like that because then they guarantee that you're not pumping out waste somewhere in the bay.
Yeah, I don't know if they limit you to once a week. I think they do.
I think they just
and then
once a week.
That's weather dependent. So if it's blown and they can't go out and you need to be pumped out, sorry. So just stuff to think about while you're living on the hook. The next one, of course, is electricity. If you're not going to be plugged into shore power, that means you probably have to charge your battery somehow. You're either doing solar, or you're running your engines, or in our case, we have a generator we run. So you have to take into consideration how much fuel are you going to burn to keep your energy up. Lots of folks do it with solar and wind. Our boat just wasn't set up that way, so for us it's diesel.
Yeah, so then you're just going to have to look at if you're doing solar panels or wind power, the acquisition cost, because many catamarans or sailboats or motor yachts don't come with that as much as you want to shop around that it does.
Yep.
Most of them don't, and even if it does, you're going to replace it anyway. So look at that acquisition cost.
That's a whole other thing. You have to figure out how much electricity does my family use for what we need to do. Is stuff on my boat 110, 120, or is it 12 volt, which is battery? It's we can do a whole other video just on how to figure that out and what that looks like and what you need for that. But it's a big thing to think about.
We don't use solar power, so we're not really even going to touch on that. We use a generator, so we're going to talk about the cost of running the generator and the fuel for that. It's diesel.
Yep.
So we get to use the same fuel from our fuel tanks powers the generator, so we don't have to have separate fuel tanks for that, which is nice. And then we calculated how much it costs us about to run our generator to power ourselves when we were on anchor on our shakedown cruise. For the last 3 videos, we did a part 1, part 2, and part 3 of our shakedown cruise. It ended up being 10 days, and so we're going to go through some of those calculations of cost.
So like Jolene said, we don't know the difference between what fuel went to the engines and what fuel went to the generators, because we have 4 big fuel tanks on board and they run everything. Everything runs off those tanks. So we ran 154 nautical miles over the course of those days, and we'd filled up before we left, and then we filled up right when we got back, and we ended up burning 179 gallons of fuel total. That was a total of 40 hours on the engines, and that was a total of 30 hours on the generator. So if you break all that down, people break it down per mile, they break it down per hour. This includes us running, generator and engines all together. We get about just under 1.5 miles per gallon, or that's 3/4 of a gallon per mile, if you want to break it down that way. The other thing is we burn just under 4.5 gallons per hour. So with those numbers, you can kind of figure out what you're doing. We run at a speed of 8 knots, roughly, depending on current and winds. But for us to, run an 8-hour trip at 8 knots, we can figure out how many miles we're going to go. We're going to figure out about how many gallons per hour we're going to burn, and then budget stuff from there. Diesel, you just have to look up the price. The first time we filled up, it was $3.30 a gallon. This last time we filled up when we got back, it was $3.10 a gallon. If you're out cruising the Caribbean and the Bahamas, definitely check in advance because you will be shocked. It can be $4, $5, $6, $7 a gallon.
Estimate your average is at least $5 a gallon for diesel.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's us. We're pretty fortunate. We have a nice, what I would consider fuel efficient for what we run. You've got to pay attention when you're buying a boat. How fast am I going to run, and what do those engines burn? That is the biggest variable expense and how much you're going to run. It almost doesn't matter if you're going to buy the boat and park it and run it twice a year. But if you're going to be moving and traveling like we are, there are boats that burn 100 gallons an hour. And yeah, they're moving fast, but that's a lot. Big twin V16 diesels, turbocharged, 450, 550 horsepower. It can be insane. So think about that. Don't forget that expense. That can be a big one people don't think about is how fast does that fuel burn?
I really like my small little engines. They're 185 horsepower each. And to say on average I burn 4.5 gallons an hour to go 8 nautical miles. That's also included our generator consumption too. So
we think our generator consumption is about 0.5 gallon an hour. So
that's great.
Yeah. That is what other expenses are we missing?
So we also have maintenance on a boat.
That's a big question mark.
Yeah. Are you buying a new boat? Or are you buying an older boat?
I don't think it matters if you're buying a new boat. They still break just like
you have about maybe a month to do no maintenance if you buy a new boat. You got a good month to just nurse that sunsets and watch your beautiful afternoons, reading all day, and no maintenance. After that, every day you're going to have something to do.
Let's talk about the stuff that's very common. An oil change. I have 2 engines. They each hold 5 gallons of oil each. They have 2 big fuel filters. I have to change the oil every 200 hours. In the 10-day trip we ran 40 hours. So that would mean if I ran that consistently, I'd change my oil every month. Fuel filters. Diesel fuel, it's super important you run your diesel fuel filter, or change your fuel filters very, very often. Usually as much as you change the oil, if sometimes even more, depending on. That's the biggest thing that can cause you to have a problem when you're out traveling is you get contaminated fuel, you get water in your fuel, and your engine's stuck, and you don't want to be stuck out at sea with an issue.
Right.
Each of my engines has 2 fuel filters, and then I have additional pre-fuel filters. So between the 2 engines, I've got 6 fuel filters, and then I've got 2 fuel filters for the generator. So you do the math, that's a lot of stuff to be changing. And that's just for fuel and oil changes.
Well, and that's filters in general. Filters for your water maker. If you're not staying in a marina and you're staying on the hook, your water filters, if you're making your own water, you've got to calculate that.
Can I give an example?
We
have 3 pre-filters for our water maker, and they're about $20 a piece, plus or minus a few dollars, depending on which one. And then you have the actual membrane itself, which desalinates, takes the salt out of the water. For us, that was about a $380 or $400 filter, but there are membranes that can cost $1,200, $1,500. And so depending on how much water you're making.
And we have to change that every 5,000 gallons?
I'll have to look. The pre-filters you change more often, and the bigger one I think is several thousand.
We use about 60 gallons of water a day, and that's without conserving water at all.
Yeah.
So when we really try to conserve water, I'm sure we use less. We really haven't calculated that yet.
Another big expense when you talk about maintenance is who's doing the work. If you're capable of doing the work, you will save yourself so much money. I highly recommend figure it out yourself if you can. Watch YouTube tutorial videos, call people who you know. This stuff is not rocket science, to be honest. I get if you're not a mechanical guy and you don't get the engine stuff. There's so many other maintenance things on a boat that need to be done, like changing out hoses, switching out a pump, basic light fixture type stuff. To anybody in the marine industry, you start at like $120 an hour. And unfortunately, the folks that you get a lot of times are not worth $120 an hour. They're learning how to do stuff for the first time on your boat. They're just figuring out. They're kind of okay at what they do. There are some great mechanics out there, well worth it. Save your money for those guys, and they may charge more when you need it, like a major engine issue or something like that. Learn how to do all the basic stuff yourself, and you will save so much more money.
Which brings us to another fun topic, is Chris is going to start doing how-to videos about once month or so, if there's anything that you want to know how to do, let us know. Leave a comment below because he does all the maintenance on our boat for us, which saves us a ton of money. He also does maintenance on other boats. He doesn't charge $120 an hour because he doesn't want to rip people off. But knowing how to do it yourself saves a ton of money, thousands and thousands of dollars.
So thank you so much. We hope this was helpful for you. If you have any other questions or comments you'd like to share in the comments, please do that. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. We have videos that come out every Friday. Give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends. We really, really appreciate it. We can't tell you how much it supports us and helps us to folks to be watching the video like this. So again, subscribe for our video. Other than that, you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next Friday.
Bye-bye.